welcome to the Stay Creative podcast, everybody who's listening, and of course also my guests. A show that I started because I love art and I want to know more about the folks who make it. I want to share more of their encouragements and message with people who maybe aren't making it yet, maybe considering not making it anymore, or just need to feel a little more connected to other folks who are in the same discipline or even struggle as them. Today
Hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Today I'm talking with Mike and Jesse of the Celluloid Dumpster Fire podcast. And for anyone who's listened to the show a good deal, you know this is a first for me. Usually on the show here, we talk to people specifically about music and the practice of making independent music or maybe, things that are more related to the music side of things. We've talked to some folks who also make shows. I have a friend who makes a YouTube show called Life's Everyday Soundtrack. So obviously when I talk to him about music, it comes up as well. But this is the first time I've talked to someone about a artistic project that is very specifically not music. So before I give away the give away whatever you guys have ready to say, I will allow you guys to introduce your show. Mike, would you like to go first?
Sure, I'm Mike McDonald. I am one of the hosts of the Celluloid Dumpster Fire. This is our independent podcast where we celebrate the movies that don't really get celebrated. This is it is a B-movie appreciation podcast. It's not a podcast to make fun of or criticize the movies, though we totally do that. But it's a movie podcast to bring love to the movies that maybe you're not willing to admit in public that you love this movie.
Yeah. That was one of the things, not to get too far ahead, but that was one of the things I couldn't stop talking about after I was on your show recently, is that in a big way you gave me back my favorite movie, because I was a little embarrassed that I loved such a low budget movie or something, I guess, and just the way you guys appreciated it for exactly what it was just filled my heart with gratitude. But yeah, it's well said, Mike. I'm really grateful for that. Jesse, tell me some about you, and maybe we'll start with, since Mike has introduced the show itself. Jesse, why don't you tell me how this show maybe plays to something that you were already interested in. I know some of these movies were something you already loved, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Jesse. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I just like really crappy movies. I grew up in an era where it's like there's no such thing as a bad movie. I mean, you pay you $2.50, you rent the movie, you watch it. Whether you liked it or not, you got your entertainment value,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Hollywood keeps on trying to outdo itself with this, that, and they get that graphics and shit. You don't need that. What you need is a good story, people that are committed to making the movie, and the stuff I watch, it's up on the screen. They put the money on the screen. Whether they, did it gracefully or not doesn't matter. Also, it's like I just like stories, and if you read a lot of books and you into comics and stuff, it's more just about the narrative and the journey. You know that beginnings and endings are always going to disappoint, but it's the journey.
Yeah.
And a good crappy movie has a good journey in it.
I think so too. You can't be looking for that exciting hook or satisfying ending. You have to be able to appreciate exactly what is happening on screen.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So you kind of had this feeling most of your life about these movies, and I've definitely heard Mike, you voice some opinions about them. That's a little maybe I can hear in Mike's appreciation of the movies that his appreciation is maybe newer. So Mike, why don't you tell me some about how the show came to be? Jesse liked the movies before and never made a show about it, but it seems like your partnership is what produces the magic that is the show.
Well, we've known each other for a long time, all three of us actually.
Mm.
And
I'm
when we used to
sorry.
work together, sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
Nah, I'm really sorry about that. Like, yeah, we've known each other for a long time. I'm just sorry about that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so Jesse and I would spend a lot of late nights together, and that was something that he was always talking about. And yeah, I'm an older person. I'm 53, almost 54 years old, and um decided that I needed to make something, just to make something. And I knew that I probably didn't have the ability or the creativity to do something entirely on my own that was going to stand. Uh, but I know that I like to laugh and I like to be entertained.
oh yeah.
And these movies that Jesse has been telling me about, there's either deliberately or accidentally, there's an absurdity to these movies that um, is something that I enjoy. And so it partly is a way to give me a creative outlet, and partly as a way to give Jesse a creative outlet. I pitched this podcast, and from the moment I pitched it, he was all in.
Nice.
So we just went from there. We picked a movie to start with. And in the first episode, I was trying to pick the movie apart. And that's as far as that went. That ended after our very first movie. And it was more about experiencing the movie. And so I do have to watch these movies a couple of times, but generally the first time I watch the movie for the podcast, it's the first time I've ever seen this movie.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I get to experience it brand new with new eyes and enjoy the movie. I'll watch it again once or twice to take notes and to analyze the movie. But that first time is just pure experiencing this creation.
That's awesome. I love that you set out to make time for something creative in your life, and because of that, you are not only like producing something, but you are getting to sit and enjoy something someone else created. So it's almost like an inhale, exhale, cycle each time you make one of these. I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I like to. It's almost like making a lamp to shine on somebody else's work, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's a good message.
I would totally pre-order a Celluloid Dumpster Fire podcast where the dumpster fire was a light bulb on a lamp.
I'm working on that.
Yeah, get it going, man. I know some artists. Let me know if you don't find one you like.
Oh, no, I have too many.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've already got our first few comments. I'm gonna say they're questions, but really they're accusations. And I'm going to I'm going to frame them in a more fun way. So I know everybody who's a fan of movies misses going to theaters and misses going to video stores and just kind of browsing. Honestly, we've been missing video stores since Netflix, I guess. But I have to imagine that is part of a rhythm that a lot of folks are missing who are film and movie and even B-movie buffs. But I wanted to ask, when you go and you're in the snack aisle or you're at the concession stand, what are the snacks that you need to enjoy a movie properly? Jesse, you can go first on this one.
Okay. Hot tamales, right off the back, like at least 2 bags hot tamales. Or what are they called? Is it hot tamales?
Yeah, the little pill shaped fireballs.
Yeah, the Mike and I.
Yeah, yeah.
2 bags of hot tamales, then a bag of popcorn with some peanut M&Ms.
Yeah.
You put the peanut M&Ms in the popcorn. I call it mopcorn. That's classic.
Yeah.
I used to be in the TV. It get stuck in my teeth. I got holes. I got caverns and shit. So I can't do that no more.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
It's a young man's game, right?
Yeah. Also, a nice box of wine and like some assorted fancy cheeses if you're just at home.
Yeah. I just love the idea of, like, obviously, you probably put the wine from the box into a glass, but I just like the idea of the box is on the couch with you.
No. You do that. You
like
do that box of wine Capri Sun style.
Yeah.
See, Mike already knows me. Yeah, it's like already I got like that straw. Oh, they make straws, by the way.
Yeah.
When it gets to like a certain point, don't even get me started on that. But yeah, no. It doesn't matter. The best thing for a movie is your attention span, and if you need snacks for that, hey, do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and I'm trying to stop. Do not smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke. But like, if you're gonna watch movie and stuff, like a nice cigar or something. Like, especially if you're into like, I don't know, you like get your mood, like, and you're watching like, I don't know, 1920s French noir shit or something.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is to like get you on to that movie.
Yeah, those movies come with cigarettes.
I get a 6-pack, a pizza, and I'm watching Critters like 1 through 4.
Yeah. That's awesome, Mike. What about you? What are the essential snacks for movie film enjoyment?
I'm pretty low maintenance, so it's just gonna be the buttered popcorn, and if it doesn't have enough butter that it slips out of your hands when you try to pick it up, add more butter.
Yeah.
He's classy.
I like the Whoppers, but eventually they start to tear up the roof of my mouth, so then I switch to Milk Duds.
Nice. Yeah. The soft Whoppers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you guys definitely passed the test. The two sinkholes that our guests laid out for you were black licorice and light buttered popcorn, and you guys definitely seem like you're wiser than those mistakes.
I'm full-blooded American. Black licorice? What is that?
Yeah. Black licorice. Get out of here. Why don't you just go eat a root? Just dig a root up and eat it. Yeah, nice. Well, I want to, before we move on to kind of I'm going to say like the game of the episode. It's not even a game. I don't know the word. Right now we're in the informational portion. Whatever the other part is. That before we get to that. Yeah. I want to ask you guys just a quick maybe goal of the show, because I know you have a Patreon with a clearly stated goal. And also, you were looking for a creative outlet. You were looking to enjoy some creations other people had made. But talk to me some about the more publicly stated, measurable goal that you have for the show. Mike, you can go first on this one.
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to do in doing this, in addition to giving me something and giving Jesse something, I wanted to give everybody something. And these movies that we review on this podcast, they have to come from somewhere. And a lot of the folks that we talk to or that we look at, these are... they're independent filmmakers. Maybe they've worked as a PA for somebody somewhere, but they're trying to make it on their own and get their own voice out there. And they've gone to school and they've spent a bunch of money to learn this craft. And I want those institutions, those places to learn, to continue to exist and to thrive. And so one of the goals of the Patreon and any advertising revenue that we may end up in the future getting is to make contributions to various film schools all over the country. Just so that they continue to produce these young filmmakers, these ambitious people with a dream or maybe a nightmare that they need to put on a screen, a big screen, a small screen, doesn't matter, but it's got to get in front of somebody's face.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Jesse?
Yeah, that's pretty right. That's spot on. I think kids should like get what's in their head onto the screen as soon as possible. Also, I agreed to do the podcast just because I'm tired of looking like a weirdo talking about all these movies.
Give a man a microphone, and what he's saying makes a lot more sense, right?
I know, right? Also, it's like for years, like I was been that guy talking about these movies, and you always get that classic comic book guy from The Simpsons or that one gas station Family Guy, and yeah, I've been that guy a lot of times. And oh man, I remember when you used to work at Food Line, and I used to come in. It's like, hey, did you sit in an episode of True Blood?
Oh yeah,
buying cigarettes off you and shit.
Yeah,
yeah, I listened to that. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, was that not sweet when they did this? And you're like, yeah, but I'm on the clock right now. I was like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm sorry, man. So I even if I didn't know you, I would stop you in town and talk about some stupid movie or show, and it is hard, because that's my only skill. It's 10 go to 20, 20 go to hey, did you see that movie? So I just like it to talk about movies with people, and not feel like a weirdo.
Yeah, that's excellent, man. I think it's fantastic how the two of you really make a cohesive team, both in the creating, in the audio. The things you say to each other makes one another laugh, and neither of you ever seem to discredit what the other one thinks or says in a way that is more than just playful. But also just knowing. Oh, go ahead.
Me and Mike are the same person, but maybe a decade apart. If you actually get to know us on a personal level, you'll see we have the same taste and same reactions to a lot of shit. But at the same time, I'm 10 years younger than him or something.
Yeah.
So my voice is different than his voice, but we have a lot of same opinions and tastes.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think it's great that so many both personal but also not team goals, but so many helpful things are coming out of this, both in your personal lives, but also in your desire to pass that help along, pass that appreciation along, pass it, along in both your time, your attention, but also in resources. So I don't know, man, I just really love you guys' show. I love that you are seeking to celebrate something you already love and are inviting others to love it with you, even if that love manifests itself in full awareness of the cheesiness or the low budget silliness of some of these movies. It is still love, and I'm really grateful for that.
That's the best part is cheesy love, man.
Cheesy love, yeah. Nobody said cheese. Well, you did say cheese. A box of wine and some nice cheese was one of your snacks, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, sort of fancy cheese.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get into some of the just silliness of what I want to know about these, because I think I've heard almost all the episodes. There are a few weird weeks where I just kind of forget the show exists, and then I tune into the new one the following week. So there's probably some that I've missed in the middle there. But I want to know from you guys, one at a time. You don't have to, fight for.
Go, Mike.
Yeah, Mike can go first. Mike, I want to know what has been the most difficult thing to watch on screen, and this, of course, can be. Just because it was gross or because it was cheesy, whatever. Because a lot of these movies are violent or horror themed. So I want to know some about that, Mike.
So there's a couple different answers to this question for me. First off, we recently reviewed an ultra micro budget film. That episode will drop in 2 more weeks. So I'm still working on producing that one. But this was a film that would create plot points and then just abandon them.
Yeah.
And so it's not that there were loose ends at the end of the movie. It's that maybe the plot that we ended with is not the same plot that we started with. And so that was difficult to watch. The other end of that spectrum, though, was A Boy and His Dog,
Mm.
which cult classic film, and this is one that Jesse and I talked about this during the podcast. Was that this is such a good movie that it's hard to analyze it, because you sit here watching this movie with the intention of making notes and analyzing this film, and in 5 minutes later, you catch yourself just watching a movie and enjoying it.
Yeah, you're wrapped
and I
up.
had to, yeah, I would get wrapped up in it, and I had to go over that one several times. So those were the hardest ones for me to watch.
Yeah, yeah. Jesse, I want to know, same question for you.
Bad Channels. It's a Richard Band movie, and when I grew up, I thought it was cool. But then in retrospect, there's too many musical numbers. Never watch them. All right, for one, we're talking about movies. Some musicals are hard, and we did a musical, and we did a Japanese musical, so it's like musicals with subtitles. But this other one, Bad Channels, it's an American movie. It's about a radio station, so of course they're going to work the music in. I forgot how bad the musical numbers in this movie is. Mike is like, this is absolute garbage. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't when I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
But anything that's musical, I really can't stomach. Like, there's like 3 or 4 musicals that I can count that I actually like.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really hard.
For sure.
Yeah, that movie was rough. That, like, half of that movie was people in clown makeup doing Mojo Nixon music videos. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I really like Mojo Nixon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's tough. But yeah, and I'll come up with some off the wall shit, and Mike's like, this is too weird, right? And I was like, yeah, I thought that was the point. Did not talk about this for an hour and a half. I'm like, oh yeah, shit. I mean, I could, but
yeah,
yeah. There's a couple of those, like, you get those head movies. It's like everybody's trying to be the new Cheech and Chong or something. And you got those. Then you got the weird comedies. They're like low key, like low budget, but they're brilliant comedy movies. So it's like, and like, yeah, well, like you said with Boy and the Dog, it's like you pick a movie that's a cult classic, you can't pull it apart.
Yeah, yeah.
You get washed up in that. It's like there's a couple movies where I'm like, I should be picking this apart, but it's such a good movie. And like those episodes, I hear it when I go back and listen. I'm gushing like a fanboy. I'm like, I love that. See the lighting, the costumes are so awesome. I'm like, we're supposed to be critiquing this. You can't just gush over everything.
Yeah, yeah. I think though that kind of like you brought up, you're shining a lamp on someone else's creation. I think that the lens of what the two of you noticed is a powerful tool in the show. Like, just hearing you describe what you love at times makes me see the scene more vividly. I've not seen. I mean, I think I've only seen maybe 2 of the movies you've reviewed, but I feel like I have memories of seeing them because of the way you describe things, both very analytical and the gushing. So I think that's cool. But I wanted to say, like, every time you guys describe something just horrific or gross or a monster that's interesting, I will have to, like, pull up my phone and Google, such and such movie, guy melting his face or whatever, and I just have to watch the YouTube clip, of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's interesting that you've been, I guess, watching these B horror type movies so long that you are significantly less phased, I guess. So whenever I ask what's been hard to watch, you're like, oh yeah, well, there were a few people who got chopped up or whatever, but that's not really hard to watch anymore.
Yeah, my baseline is really off. I ain't gonna lie. My baseline is really off. Like, I'll watch something that, like, but it's like it's a musical and a comedy, so, like, yeah.
Well, one of the things that that Jesse brought up in previous episodes that we've done, and I agree with him completely. So many of these comedy horror films that we cover, they take the gore and what could potentially be very powerful body horror, and just amp up the absurdity to it that it no longer hurts.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you were describing a scene in, I think, the first Feast movie. I think that's the one you guys did an episode
hell,
on. Where,
trilogy.
yeah, oh yeah, I've seen the trilogy actually. It's funny. I was don't tell Mike, Jesse, but I was at Domino's getting paid and I watched all 3 of those movies. But
I didn't even work.
Then
but no, I remember you were describing a scene where like somebody's eyeball is pulled out or something, and you were like, and the first half of this scene is very discomforting, and then like the eyeball just keeps getting pulled, like this cord keeps going until it's so silly that you're not even like weirded out by it anymore because it's just a completely fake scene,
Yeah, plus the maggots kind of like got you desensitized at that point. Like you let maggots.
What was the maggot budget on this film? Jeez, yeah.
A couple $1,000.
Yeah. So I want to ask as well, and we'll start with Jesse this time. What are some of the maybe the movies or even just the episodes of your shows that have covered movies that you think just everybody needs to see, B movie appreciators or not? What are the movies that you've kind of stumbled upon in either your time making the show or in your time preparing to eventually someday make the show? What are the movies that are just unmissable?
Unmissable, right off the bat, Evil Dead 2. Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, both at their finest. They refilmed half the movie, but that was like a rights issue, so they couldn't do Flash. So of course they had to refilm half the movie, but they did it better. Yeah, and they did with blood. Yeah. So Evil Dead 2, right off the bat. I like some of the new stuff. If you're into movies and shit, these guys, the Vestron 6, they did this movie called The Editor, which is really cool. It's like a love letter to Italian horror movies. It's trippy. You get into it. Anything by David Lynch. I love it. I love Blue Velvet. Like, oh man, you get me on some David Lynch.
Dune.
We'll talk about David Lynch. But anyway, David Lynch, David Cronenberg. You have both Davids in there. Oh man, the best. And I like to throw this stuff on Mother's Day and stuff, and people hate me for it. But there's this movie that David Cronenberg made called The Brood.
The Brute or The Brood?
The Brood. Yeah, Brood.
Gotcha.
It's got name that drunk Englishman. He's in it. He's fucking fabulous in it. I can't think of his name. He was in Tommy the musical. He was like the stepdad in Tommy.
Nice, awesome.
But yeah, anything weird, David Lynch. It's weird. You think my taste, chainsaws and blood and boobs and stuff, but I like the art stuff. I like David Lynch. John Waters too. Anything John Waters. Serial Mom's great.
Yeah, and often, I mean, obviously, you brought up early on that you just loved stories, even from a young age. So you'd get a movie and just enjoy the story, even if the budget was low or the maybe the writing dropped a bunch of plot points along the way or something. And yeah, I think that tracks both in the episodes I've listened to, but also in what you're saying right now. Like, it's not about any specific aesthetic in a movie or any specific theme. You've just gravitated towards stories that you enjoyed. And sometimes there's blood, and sometimes there's chainsaws, and sometimes there's not.
Yeah, it's like a thing. It's like, and it really saddens me. Like the new movie media conglomerate thing. It's like about star power, and it's like you get these formulaic movies where like Will Smith's going to be in it, and they're like, all right, I'm tuned out. And Will Smith's not a bad actor. It's just we've seen him so many times. And the same thing with like what's his name? QB Halloween, that guy, Adam Sandler. And it's not about the star power. It's about the intention of the movie, the people, the heart that they put into it. And like you really need a plot and a story to go. And if you don't have a plot and story, at least have characters that like you have like quotable lines and it'll make you laugh.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Mike, I want to ask you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jesse.
I'm saying, like, it's really sad that that's like, all right, the movie's gonna be a hit because Tom Cruise is in it and has this in it, and we put this much money in the budget. That's bullshit. Like, the good movies are the ones where you get every dollar on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I like that. I've never thought about that before, but it's also something that I appreciate in the independent music that I listen to. It's like how much are these artists that I'm already a fan of able to do with their bedroom studio often.
Word, because it's like anybody can sound like a songbird, with auto tune and all this shit. You can make anybody look good, but when you got 3 chords in the truth, like, of course you're gonna rock band, and that's really all you need.
Yeah, for
Ramones
sure.
and Clash, all this, like, that's what you need. 3 chords is truth.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. I love it. Mike, I want to ask you the same thing, and obviously I want to maybe add on to asking you this one, Mike. Are there any movies that you maybe fell in love with because of Jesse's suggestion? Like, are there any movies that have become favorites of yours because you watched it for the show?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one that jumps out first is probably the best thing to ever come out of 2020. That's the Matthew John Lawrence film Uncle Peckerhead.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
That movie is destined to be one. It's the latest cult classic. There's no way that 20, 30 years from now people aren't still watching Uncle Peckerhead.
Yeah. I remember I was listening to that episode, and I sat down at the dinner table that evening and retold not only the whole movie's plot, but everything you guys said about it to my wife.
Okay, when we're done here, go back to her and tell her you're sorry for us.
Yeah, we'll do. But continue, please.
A Boy and His Dog is one that I absolutely love. That's a movie everybody needs to see. If you are a fan of dystopian future or post-apocalyptic, this is the kind of movie that inspired the blockbuster post-apocalyptic films like the Mad Max franchise, like the Fallout video game franchise. All of that rose out of this one movie, so that's one that everybody needs to see. But as far as movies that I would watch over and over and over again as a result of this podcast, it's Uncle Peckerhead.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Are there any other favorite episodes, like for folks that are listening to this maybe later, like if you had to tell them a perfect starting point for your show, and maybe it's still Uncle Peckerhead, but if you had a second as well.
The beginning is a good place to start.
Oh, nice.
I'm not. There's one episode that I would advise everybody to skip for very different reasons. But if you're going to start at the beginning, we didn't really have. First of all, our podcast is 100% completely improvised. We've kind of fallen into a formula over the last 11, 12 episodes. And sorry about my bird in the background there.
It's all good.
He wants to get in on it.
Yeah.
But we've kind of fallen into a formula. But everything is exactly what we're thinking at that moment, and so we've stuck with that because I think we're comfortable with it. But yeah, beginning with Laser Blast is a good one. Laser Blast is where I discovered that I can have fun noticing the flaws in this movie, not because I'm poking holes in or tearing apart somebody's work, but because I just realized this guy made most of a spaceship interior with light bright pegs. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's hot.
So
That's impressive.
it is. It is. And so, yeah, if you start at the beginning, skip episode 4, you're good to go.
Nice. We'll do. Skip episode 4. I just like the, again, I'm thinking t-shirts. I'm thinking franchising over here, or not franchising, but branding. I'm thinking branding. You need a t-shirt that says skip episode 4.
Yeah, they'd be hot like on a visor or something.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that's kind of the questions I had. I of course want to give each of you some time to maybe say whatever I did not leave you space to say about your show, or about your motivations, or whatever, or even where to find you on the internet. If you've got multiple spots, of course I'll include any links I can in this episode wherever I end up uploading it. But this is your time. The floor is yours. Jesse, you can go first this time. Oh, you went first last time, but whatever. Go first, Jesse.
Support artists. Watch movies. Stop taking life so serious. Watch a weird movie. Have some fun. You have a support art. Watch movies.
Yeah.
Be kind to people.
Yeah, for sure. That's another good T-shirt, Jesse. You just spitting them out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, what about you?
So throughout making this, we've had some really, really amazing high points, like when we reached out to the director of Uncle Peckerhead on a whim and asked him, could he join us on our podcast? And 45 minutes later, I had an email from him saying, when do you guys record?
Oh my
to the very low points when I actually deleted an entire episode after we recorded it. And the lessons we learned in the process, like don't try to catch lightning in a bottle a second time. It's not going to happen. You deleted that file, move on.
Yeah.
Which is why you need to skip episode 4. We tried to catch lightning in a bottle a second time, and it turned out bad.
Yeah.
And it's up there for the whole world to see.
It wasn't.
That's the other. Well, it wasn't very good either.
Yeah.
So that's one of my things is, and I'm not afraid to let people see my mistakes, what I consider my mistakes. And I'm sure that as a musician, you and I'm sure your fans or your audience knows as well. Sometimes I'm a little too critical of myself, and I just need to put it out there anyway. And that's what we did there. But yeah, you can find us everywhere. Celluloid Dumpster Fire is available wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us. We are at CDF Pod on Facebook and Instagram, at CDF_pod on Twitter. And if you got a couple extra bucks, we're a pretty cheap date at patreon.com/CDFpod.
Yeah. Was there already a CDF pod on Twitter?
There is.
Oh, no.
There was a podcast, I believe it's now defunct, called and it's a gay-centric horror film appreciation podcast called Copulators Die First.
They got the cool names. They always beat us to the thing. You're like,
That's great. You guys should revive that somehow. I don't know exactly how.
I already got T-shirts printed up in my basement.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Totally, like, by chance, like I have this boxes of it. But yeah, no, I just like the name Celluloid Dumpster Fire. It sounds sexy, but at the same time, it's a mess. It's a hotness.
Yeah. I agree. Like it's, and honestly, you guys have done a really good job of helping me understand the appreciation aspect. But when I read the words dumpster fire, I'm expecting, I'm putting on the hat of a very critical person, you know.
Good, yeah.
But I think you guys do just a fantastic job. A fantastic job not only loving these movies that you're reviewing, but in so many ways encouraging other people to give it a try. You know, and that to me is one of the best things you can do in your creating, is encourage others to kind of also give it a try, be it a podcast, you know, like you're making, talking about something that you already enjoy, or a movie, you know. There have been moments lately, I've been trying to make music videos, and let's just say they aren't, you know, good, but I love making them, and in part because of all the conversations I've heard you guys have, and you've talked about these practical effects and things in ways that make it seem so doable, you know. Go ahead.
Doable. Everything is doable. Don't let anything lie to you. You can figure out how to do stuff. You know, you don't really have to have like all this. That's the biggest thing in like film school will teach you, is you don't need film school. You just need a vision and a couple good friends that know technicals.
Yeah.
Like, you can make anything.
Yeah, man. I absolutely believe it, and you guys are doing a really good job of showing that every episode, every time. So yeah, thank you very much.